April 30th, 1975, the day Saigon fell to the communists. It was a day of sadness and change for a country already racked for decades by war. The change was an end to war, but for millions of people, it began a time of uncertainty and hardship. Under the communist regime, many people believed there was no future. The only future they believed would be found outside their country. So began an exodus of thousands. People left by any means possible. One of the most common means of escape was by the sea. The mass exodus was called the flight of the boat people. In crowded boats, large and small, people escaped from their beloved homeland. Untold thousands never made it. Captured by pirates or claimed by the rages of the sea, we will never know their names. Those who did escape found themselves in refugee camps. They were picked up at sea and brought to places like the Philippines, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Thailand. Scattered so, they sat for months, some years, and wondered, what now? Many found their way to the United States of America. Their arrival in this country was the beginning of enrichment for America. For these wonderful people brought their gifts and faith. That faith would make a tremendous difference to the church in America, and it would bring new life to the society of the Divine Word.
My boat was very small. It was very small, I don't know, but 106 people in the boat. I had to stay down in the, what do you call that, the bottom of the boat most of the time. And we were crammed into a little boat like that, like sardine in a can. There's no room to stretch our arms and legs. It's very tight. It was very compact.
1978, I was put in prison. And then 1979, another time. And 1980, I get out from Vietnam as one of the boat people at that time. And, well, we were rescued by a Norwegian ship coming out from Manila. And they rescued us and then brought us to the Singapore. And I stayed there for 3 months. And then after that, I was allowed to come to this country.
When we ran into a Thai naval ship, and they allowed only children and women to board their ship. All the men remained in the boat, in a little boat. All the men remained in a little boat. So they tied our boat to their ship. And in the middle of the night, something happened, I have no idea. We were all tired and sleeping. And the boat just tossed back and forth and flipped over. But I was lucky, I was able to grab a rope hanging from the ship. So I climbed up the ship. So that was how I was saved.
Yeah, we had to plan differently, secretly, and I tried 14 times. Different places, but finally, well, I told my father, I said that this is the last time. The 14th time, I said, this is the last time. If I'm not going to make it, I stay home, that no more. And so, but finally, the 14th time that I made it.
I think at this point, sometimes I question myself, why did we have to leave in a terrible, way? Because I just reflect on the experience in Vietnam. At that time there was so much pressure, very heavy. People didn't see any future in their lives in terms of they have no education, no freedom at all. Even in religious freedom, there was no freedom. So that's why people fled Vietnam. We wasn't afraid of the death on the sea, you know, but because we were afraid of the oppression in Vietnam, and then we fled.
Common to every story is the word determination. Their determination allowed them to survive. The world must remember. What strength and courage. They came knowing absolutely no English, but because of their family structure, strong cultural traditions, an ethic of hard work, they have firmly established strong roots in a new land. Most importantly, they came with their Catholic faith. 30% of all Vietnamese now living in America are Catholic. Despite persecutions, the faith of the Vietnamese people has always been strong. It is estimated that more than 130,000 Vietnamese Catholics died for Christ's sake during persecutions from 1625 to 1886.
The Vietnamese Catholic, they under persecution in many ways and many times. And from that experience, they believe God protect them, God help them, God lead them and guide them. In that situation, they are very faithful.
Now, when you look at the history of it, you see that the history of the Vietnamese Catholic Church is one steeped in martyrdom. In 1988, Pope John Paul II canonized 117 Vietnamese martyrs. That history of suffering and persevering in the faith in spite of opposition and so forth is a strong legacy of the Vietnamese people, Catholic people. So we never forget that. That's a heritage we received.
This vigorous Catholic faith, rooted in a strong past, has brought untold treasures to the American landscape. One of the most striking treasures from this strong attachment to Catholicism is the many new vocations to the American church. Since 1975, the Vietnamese community has unselfishly shared many young men and women to serve as priests and religious in the American church. The Divine Word Missionaries have benefited greatly from the Vietnamese Catholic community. Interestingly, the place that would nurture these new vocations and continue training students even today was in Epworth, Iowa. It all began with a phone call in 1975 when a former seminarian contacted the SVDs. He had information that among the hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese refugees entering the United States, a group of seminarians had arrived at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. He asked whether the SVDs would be able to help them with language learning and cultural adaptation.
And they arrived on October the 16th, 1975, and Father Luzpatek and myself and some of our students from the college went to the Dubuque airport to meet the Vietnamese students.
A godsend. That's what it was. Vocations were going down, and that wasn't our main concern. At that time, our concern was the Vietnamese.
Well, I think in many ways the response to this request to receive Vietnamese seminarians from the refugee camp in Arkansas was really coming right out of our SVD tradition. We were prepared to meet the moment. We were prepared to respond because of our strong internationality, because of our missionary orientation, We had personnel available to meet the real needs of the seminarians who were there. So I think really it was a very graced moment, but it was one that we were prepared for. It came right out of our tradition of service to people across cultures.
And I think once we start reflecting, the first thing that comes to my mind is sentiments of gratitude to God for this gift. I mean, other orders perhaps could have been blessed with so many Vietnamese. But God, in His wisdom, or for some reason, we received this gift of having so many vocations, Vietnamese vocations.
We're surviving in this country because of the gift of the Vietnamese suddenly showing up at our doorstep. And we're all great. Not just numbers. I mean, it's not just numbers. It's all the richness that we are because of the Vietnamese being with us and part of us and being us.
A spontaneous willingness to reach out in unconditional acceptance of young men to religious life has brought a number of vocations to the Divine Word Missionaries. Every year, Vietnamese men dedicate themselves to a life of service as Divine Word Missionaries.
I have to say that everything is good about the SVDs. I would strongly urge any young men who want to become a priest or religious, a missionary, to choose the SVDs over all other religious orders and dioceses. Why do I say that? I think that the SVDs are first very committed to mission. A mission by the very name of the Society Divine Word, and the fact that the founder wanted is mission, proclaiming the good news of Jesus to the world. And today, mission is central to what the church does. What the church is defined by what the church does in mission. And to have a religious order that is explicitly, intentionally dedicated to mission is an excellent thing. Well, the second excellent thing about the SVDs is that they are very committed to the multicultural approach to everything they do. They respect the cultures, they always learn the languages. This emphasis on the learning of the language within the context of the local culture, I think the SVDs are excellent at that. So I think these are the two things. And the third thing I find, and this is a little bit more familiar with those who know the SVDs, is that they are very sociable. They work with the people in the level of communication, sharing, being one of the people rather than someone with a high idea of hierarchy or something. It's the manner of working with people. It's always the midst of people. I think they are very, very good. And finally, of course, it's a question of their spirituality. You can do mission, you can learn the languages, you can be nice to people and all that without a solid and profound spirituality rooted in the imitation of Christ, following discipleship of Christ. These are things I observe among the SVDs that I know in the United States, as well as in Taiwan and the Philippines that I met them. These are the wonderful things that I can say about the SVDs in general.
All this was made possible because of another treasure which the Vietnamese community has brought to this country, the Vietnamese family. The family is the strength of the Vietnamese community.
The Vietnamese love to see the young men that willing to try to dedicate their life, and they really very fond of seeing priests religious around them. They feel it's a privilege to have this many young men come and help them out. They in turn pray for them, for their vocation.
It is the family that nurtures the faith. Vietnamese families enthusiastically support the young men and women who wish to pursue a vocation to the priesthood and religious life. Take, for instance, the Lay family, who now live in Orange County, California. Their youngest son, Anthony Duclay, was studying to be a doctor, but he felt a calling to the priesthood. His wish to pursue that calling was supported by his family then, and they stand by him to this day.
It was in the spring before I graduated that I finally came and talked to my mom, and she was very calm about it. I thought that they were going to be upset because I think that in my family they were thinking that they would have a doctor in the family. But in fact, she was very calm, and she said that both things are good, and it was up to me to make the decision to choose, and to do what I was most happy. My father also had the same response afterward when my mom talked to him, and so they are very supportive. And now that I've gone this far, their support has increased, and their concern has also increased with time.
Every day, every single day, morning and night, on the way I go to work, on the way I come home from work, I always thinking of him as my little brother, youngest brother, and pray for him. Wish him the best in his life. And one day, pretty soon he will become a holy priest.
With families such as the Lays supporting the young man, Vietnamese Catholics have now reached out all over the world. Vietnamese priests and brothers of the Society of the Divine Word work in many countries throughout the world. It is not easy, but the young SVDs learn to adapt to other cultures and are bringing the treasures of Vietnamese Catholics to the world. Take, for example, these young missionaries. In Ecuador, Father Brandon Hiep Nguyen brings his Vietnamese faith to people who need to know they are loved by God. Father Bang Kong Tran ministers to the people of Togo, West Africa. With the beating of the drum and movement of the people, Father Bang Kong Tran brings his Vietnamese gifts to the continent of Africa. In Taiwan, Father Joseph Huing Tran develops young men in novitiate. Novitiate is a time for a young man to learn about the Society of the Divine Word and learn if God is calling him to religious life. Father Joseph guides the young men in this prayerful time of their lives. In Memphis, Tennessee, Father Joseph Dao Vu pastors a unique parish. He serves people in a multicultural environment: English, Vietnamese, and Spanish. Mass is celebrated in the 3 languages. He and a team of Divine Word Missionaries work together to serve all God's people. Father Joseph Trong, SVD, was one of the first Vietnamese to come to Epworth, Iowa in 1975. Since his ordination in 1991, he has served in the Philippines and now in Vietnam. In the Philippines, he joined other SVDs ministering in Vietnamese refugee camps. The SVDs were the only religious order to do such outreach in the Philippine refugee camps.
It's good for them to do the missionary work outside the United States. And I think they love it because we came from a missionary country, Vietnam. So, and then they are motivated in doing the missionary work themselves.
Their ability to enter into a new culture here and learn a new language. And over the years, what's also struck me is their willingness then to also be open to going to other countries and other cultures. And that I really find amazing and inspiring. To enter into this country and culture and learn English, but then to be willing to go anywhere in the world where SVDs work. And
I believe that I'm called to go to a mission somewhere, most likely outside of the United States. And I believe very strongly that we, the SVDs, we're called to go to places where the gospel has not been preached or has not been felt the way it should be.
At first, I really want to go to the mission after my ordination. That's in my dream. I love to work in the mission, and I was in Bolivia for 2 years, and that deepened my sense of missionary life.
Now that I'm here in Togo for this my second year in Togo, I think it is time for us Vietnamese to reach out to other people, to other cultures. We Vietnamese, we receive missionaries from other countries like France and Spain and Portugal. It's time for us to, let's say, repay, or let's say that we thanks the pioneer, the first missionary who come to Vietnam. It's time for us to reach out to other people, to other cultures.
We are part of the church, universal church, even though we are Vietnamese, no? But we work together. We share our faith, our Vietnamese faith, our Vietnamese culture to our people where God has called us to serve.
I think it's very important to have Vietnamese here in Ecuador because they are a group of people who have known 3 cultures. First of all, their own Asian culture, and then they grew up in the different cultures in the United States, and when they come here to Ecuador, they begin to know different cultures again. So I think they're much more adaptable when it comes to enculturation.
The treasures and gifts of the Vietnamese community do not end with encouraging young people for religious life. The laity among Vietnamese Catholics is extremely active. Men and women in the Vietnamese community, no matter their education or status, are a treasure to see as they support their faith and church. Whether it be Mass, special devotions, special gatherings, teaching of the young, Vietnamese Catholics are providing a valuable example to the American church as to what an active laity can accomplish. Devotion to Mary is a powerful witness to the Vietnamese faith. The Mother of Jesus holds a special place of honor in the Vietnamese community. It is a love and a respect rooted for centuries in Vietnam itself.
The Vietnamese love Virgin Mary because for many reasons, somehow the Orientals are attracted to the feminine side of God. And Mary seemed to fit right in. And also in the Buddhist traditions, there is a goddess of benevolence. And if you read about that goddess of the Buddhists, she's very similar to Vietnamese. In fact, when Our Lady appeared in La Vang over 200 years ago, the Buddhists saw her and they thought that she was the goddess of benevolence of their religion. But later on they discovered that she belonged to the Catholics. So the Buddhists moved out of La Vang and then the Catholics moved in. So it's a quite interesting story right from the very beginning of our Catholicism.
Vietnamese are dedicated to their youth and work with them from a very young age. In the strongly materialistic society of America, work with the new generations of Vietnamese Catholics will take on added urgency. There are negative influences which have the means to destroy in young people the gifts brought in the Vietnamese exodus. The Vietnamese young need to be nurtured in the faith of their ancestors.
Family gathering for prayer in the evening was something sacred. And then after that we would get together, we would eat, we would share some kind of meal, and relatives normally would come for this kind of gathering. And that was something sacred. And throughout, even up to when I was in college, whenever I went home, Mom and I always prayed the rosary together. It didn't matter where I was 18 or 25. And she always said, son, let's get together and we pray in the evening and you can do whatever after and so on. And so praying was something very sacred, something very special and important, significant in my life and in my family.
The riches and treasures of Vietnamese Catholics come from a long history of Catholicism in Vietnam. It is a history of tears and courageous men and women who died for their faith. The story of the Vietnamese martyrs is a shining example of faith in action. For the Vietnamese Catholics, these martyrs for the faith have become a source of inspiration and pride. In places such as Orange County, California, where one of the largest numbers of Vietnamese Catholics have settled, the feast day of the martyrs is remembered by thousands. What a gift has been given to us since 1975. With a determination and unwavering trust in God, Vietnamese men and women, through many difficulties, have given to the American Catholic Church untold treasures. These treasures must be shared.
So in my opinion, I would like the Vietnamese parishioners to get involved more in their own environments, to be witnesses of Christ in their own environments, rather than enclose themselves within their own community.
In 1975, few of us would dare to think that the loss of the country and our exile would be a blessing. But how can we say it today? We can say today because during those 30 years, we tried to see God in everything. You know, this is what the hands of you dealt with, you walk with it to the best of your ability, not sit back and complain or regret or anything. You just got what you got and try to find God in everything. And you can transform your life from tragedy to victory, from something painful to something wonderful. Not by any means diminishing or neglecting or belittling the sufferings that the people have gone through. I mean, they have a tremendous suffering, but to be able to turn that into something positive, I think the condition is seeing God in all things.
And that's how I really got my vocation, from, is to draw that calling from God from or through my experience of escape in Vietnam. And so basically, my vocation came from that kind of experience, through the escape experience and through living in this country. And after reflecting and pondering and thinking about it, it's like, whoa, there is something in me, and I like to respond to that. And that's what, to be short, I responded to be a missionary, Divine Word Missionaries.
The Divine Word Missionaries thank the Vietnamese Catholics. The treasures you have brought with you in your exodus across the sea are a source of inspiration to all in the American Church. Your faith gives us hope. Your love of God and willingness to serve God in each other touches us deeply. Please remember, your journey of faith has not been in vain. We appreciate all you have done. We look forward to a future where your gifts will become even more a part of our society. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ban muôn ơn thiêng dẫn đưa con trên dương gian vương ngàn nguy khó. Này hồn con nào biết lấy chi bao từ ngàn xưa cha đã yêu con, cha gọi con giữa muôn